The year was 2021. COVID was lifting, but slowly. Don Garber, in an attempt to bring, viewers back, not fans, but viewers back to Major League Soccer, decided to have the MLS is Back tournament, something that we affectionately refer to here as the COVID Cup. Maxime Crepeau has the starting job for the Whitecaps, but breaks his thumb in the second match. Just before the hour mark, a 20-year-old backup keeper who came through the Whitecaps system, a young Thomas Hasal, is called into duty for his first ever first team minutes, and boy, does that kid respond. He shuts out the Seattle Sounders for the remaining 32 minutes of his maiden match, then proceeds to do the same to the Chicago Fire and Sporting Kansas City in his next two starts. Hasal didn't allow a goal during his entire COVID Cup run, 212 minutes of action. Also in 2021, a certain young podcaster, one Christian Philly Philemon, would at times enjoy a beverage from the sanctity of his own shoe. Well, my friends, last night, Thomas Hasal turned back the clock and gave us a performance for the ages with 2 saves in the shootout. And this morning, turning back the clock, pulling the hands of time back to those beautiful times of 2021, one Christian Philly Philemon, providing he doesn't die right now while choking, is going to enjoy a beverage from the comfort of his own chancla.
There's a saying about, putting your foot in your mouth when you say something stupid. Well, I'll be completely honest. I don't remember saying that I would drink out of a shoe if LAFC beats Pachuca. But I didn't have to remember that because about 3 people yesterday at BMO Stadium reminded me that when LAFC wins, I'm going to have to drink out of my shoe. And yes, I am a man of my word. Although I do have to be careful as to what I say these days because it may once again come back to bite me, or in this case, to put my foot in my mouth, or in this case, to drink again out of a shoe. And yes, I did that for a long time, a number of years. It became a comical thing for a while until I started getting these stupid little gout buildups. And then I transitioned on over to wine. And you can't exactly put wine in a shoe because it stains. So then that gave birth to the sanitary shoey, which meant a cup in a shoe. And it led me to doing something that I hadn't done in a very long time. And that's mature. And so I grew up a little and I stopped doing shoeies. And here we go again. Where the heck is the shoe? Ah, yes. I have a Nike Pegasus running shoe here.
Yeah.
And of course, this is for the people that are watching. For the people that are listening, 4 minutes and 18 seconds is right around then. Now, I only have 2 types of drinks in the house, Scarf.
Yeah.
I've got my beloved Newcastle, which I will not put in a shoe. But lucky enough, I have Happy Dad Seltzer.
Okay.
So, Exhibit A, the shoe. Exhibit B, the seltzer.
Did you put a towel down around you first?
That's a good idea. I'll be right back.
Yeah, just in case. You guys, Philly hasn't done a shoey in a while. I try not to gag every time he does this. I love my podcast partner. By the way, you know my voice. It's the Scarf, J.R. Liebert. Hello, co-host here of Defenders of the Bank. Philly is going to get a towel because someone has to remind him that he'll have to eventually clean it up on the floor if he doesn't put a towel down. We appreciate you guys joining us, by the way. This is the kind of fun that we like to have here on Defenders of the Bank because nothing says breakfast at 9:27 in the morning here on August 2nd, 2020, like a Happy Dad seltzer from a shoe. There you go. And for everybody else, out there just listening on all of your different podcast platforms, tune into us on YouTube. We have a good time. You got to watch us. It's lots of fun. This is episode 375, you guys. 375. He's also put on his dad robe with his Happy Dad seltzer. Look at this thing we got going on here. It's Hugh Philemon over here, Mr. Hefner.
Yes, minus the the obvious things that Hugh Hefner would have around his arm. All right, let's get this over with. And don't say that I'm not a man of my word. Okay, Exhibit A, the shoe. Exhibit B, the seltzer. I put the seltzer close to the microphone so you can hear that it's a fresh can.
Oh, boy.
Oh, boy is right. I can't believe I agreed to this. All right, here we go.
Well, happy breakfast.
God, I could hear it foaming in the top end of the shoe. Oh, God. Oh, God. All right, defenders. Yeah, LAFC.
Oh, there's no way. There's no way I would do it. Just wouldn't happen. It's happening right now. If you're watching.
Oh.
Well, that's what happens when you make a bet after happy hour. Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. If I had to do that, then you had to listen to the burp. God, that was awful. Thank God it was done with the seltzer. I don't think I could have done that with anything, maybe other than like a Mick Ultra. Now I remember why I stopped doing this.
Yeah.
It's fun in theory.
Nope.
But it's fun after you've had like 4 or 5.
Nope.
Not to start the morning. I haven't even been up a half hour. I feel like I'm in college again, just drinking out of a shoe. Ugh. Hold on. All right, now we can begin.
All right. So Philly, now that we got the formalities out of the way, can we talk for just a second? We're going to talk about the Leagues Cup. We promise. We're going to talk about, we have this day in LAFC history. No real news and notes because the last time we played was like 7 minutes ago. But the massive drop, first by Fabrizio Romano, then Tom Bogert. I mean, every major league soccer journalist, every reputable one is talking about this. It's becoming more and more likely that former, almost now, Tottenham Hotspur man, Heung-min Son, who plays today in South Korea in front of his people, his homeland, it's probably going to be the last time that he plays in a Tottenham Hotspur shirt. Our condolences to Rich Orozco and all of our other Spurs fans out there. But the fact is, Philly, that he's likely coming to LAFC. I've said August 31st or whenever that match is against San Diego FC at home will be his debut. Can I just get your thoughts? You watch a lot of Prem soccer. Former Golden Boot winner, the face of the franchise there for the longest time. What does it mean for a guy like Heung-min Son to be coming to Major League Soccer and to LAFC?
Well, first and foremost, we know that he's been around LAFC in the past. We've seen him sign autographs with LAFC supporters. I mean, this goes back a long time ago, and the idea of Son coming in to Los Angeles was incredible, in particular from a business perspective, because of the huge Korean population that lives in Los Angeles that absolutely loves the man. From a business perspective and from a global viewpoint, it's an excellent business deal because the man comes in with a lot of talent and carries a lot of weight. So in terms of jersey sales, won't be surprised if we see Son in the top 10 relatively quickly. If not the top 5, dare I say he'd probably usurp Olivier Giroud in that mark really quickly. So from the business side, makes complete sense. From a footballing side, oh my God, that would be incredible. It would help bolster up this team. It would help add so much firepower, complements the system very well. He can do a lot of things tremendously. Does he fall in on that left wing? Who knows? But to bring in a kid of his talent is incredible. And I say as a kid because compared to me, he is a kid. He is a veteran in this game, but he's had so many appearances for Spurs, top 7, if I believe. Obviously, you mentioned the Golden Boot. Globally, the guy's an icon. He's a brand within his own right, and he can add so much to this team. It's exciting. I don't want to get ahead of myself. Until you and I are in the press conference getting to ask him questions, to me, it is not real. It's as real as the idea of me drinking another shoey out of my Nike Pegasus running boot. But it is exciting. Oftentimes we get so stuck in the echo chambers of social media when we see one thing get tweeted by somebody, we all get excited. This one is legit and it has some teeth behind it. He had at his press conference the announcement that he's not going to that he's not playing anymore. He was crying and said it was the toughest decision of his life. But it's not going to be an easy one when he gets to LAFC because, well, if he comes in late this season and adds something, we might actually make a nice push for the MLS Cup. The thing that concerns me, though, if I was a player, where am I going into if I have a team that the coach is leaving at the end of the season and the entire team, for the most part, out of contract and could potentially be overhauled? But I guess when you bring this into the equation, by this I mean money, money, money must be funny. In a rich man's world, it has the ability to change anybody's opinions. But if it happens, truly it will be a monumental moment and one of the biggest signings in MLS history.
Yeah, Philly, I got to say, it maybe brings those Ange Postecoglou rumors a little bit closer to the forefront. Obviously, they have a long history together at Tottenham Hotspur. Look, we know that Steve is out at the end of the year because he said he's out at the end of the year. It may speed up that process. I don't know. I doubt it. I still don't think he goes anywhere until the end of the season. But I also, by the way, let's be very, very real. He's not going to play for a while for LAFC because, number one, the kid has barely had a break. Tottenham wins Europa League for their first trophy, the only trophy in the Sun era, by the way. And that extends their season quite a bit. They're on this Korean tour where they played just a couple of days ago. They're playing again today. And LAFC, after Leagues Cup, has 3 road matches, the 9th, the 16th, and the 23rd. And I guarantee you all that he is not going to debut on the road. I mean, even if he debuts in Gillette Park, the house that Tom Brady built, he'll still just be the second best player ever to play there with the GOAT, having, gone up and down the field for touchdown after. I'm just saying this because Philly hates it so much. I think there's no way that they're going to debut him on the road. So I think that match against San Diego, and the scheduling has been all over the place on that one because it got rescheduled or it's been changed or whatever. MLS is waiting because that's going to be a marquee matchup. Can you imagine? BMO Stadium, Heung-min Son taking the pitch for the very first time after a couple of weeks off and maybe a week or two in training. It is going to be unreal. I'm talking about it like it's happened already because, oh my God, I want it. And can I mention one more thing, Philly? We mentioned how history has a way of coming back to repeat itself. Look, I don't know what kind of history this is, but I'm just going to mention it because as we transition into this day in LAFC history, the news really broke yesterday that Son is likely coming. Yesterday is August 1st. And guess whose birthday is also August 1st, Philly?
I don't know.
That would be Kim Moon-hwan, our only other.
Oh my
South
God,
Korean
what a
player.
stretch. Unbelievable.
How crazy is that, though? I mean, come on. There's got to be some sort of karmic connection there. I absolutely loved, by the way, Kim Moon-hwan when he was here for LAFC. I wish he could have had a little bit more of an impact. He seemed like a player that would fit perfectly in the system as an attacking outside back, but it just didn't work out. But by the way,
you know who else was born on August the 1st, Scarf?
Who else was born on August the 1st?
Coolio, and he's dead. So, I mean, this isn't a gangster's paradise. I don't know.
Jeez. Okay. No, but
now you might have to. Now you might have to question some of the things I say, having down a beer without or seltzer without having had anything to eat.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Look, there are questions, right, that will have to be answered. Both of Denny Bwanga and Heung-min Son obviously play the same position. So how will they move things around there? I think Son can play pretty much anywhere. He's an incredibly talented player and will work to fit the system. I think Denny Bwanga would be open, by the way, to moving different places because being able to play. I think you asked. Was it you that asked him in the? Oh no, it was Justin who asked him in the press conference what it would be like to play with the likes of Heung-min Son. And, he basically said, look, it'd be great. He was a star in Prem. He'll be a star here. So I think it'll be really interesting times, and we'll be there. We'll be at the press conference. We'll be wherever we can be when Heung-min Son finally does arrive, assuming that it all happens.
I will address a comment by Will Ferrell in the chat about stopping excuses. Vitinho is 26, Son is 33. My man, that's a huge difference in terms of recovery. So just saying.
No, I'm with you. And it looks like Denny Bouanga, by the way. I never thought he was going to Club America.
No, that was never happening. That was all BS, defenders. You have to be careful where you read your information. It was never a factor. He was never going to Club America. The news that came out was always, showing interest. They want Denny Bouanga. No shit. I want so many players, but it's not going to happen by me just saying it. Agents are always planting things in the rumor mill just to spark up controversy, see what they can do. It was never happening. And I just realized I used a swear word on a family-friendly show. So for those at work or for those in class, I apologize to the superiors there. Blame Philly.
Look, just to close out this day in LAFC history, we talked about August 1st being Kim Moon-Hwan's birthday. Also August 1st, but this one back in 2018. August 1st was the first ever All-Star game that featured LAFC players Carlos Vela and Laurent Simon representing LAFC in the 2018 MLS All-Star game versus Juventus. Carlos Vela selected the starting 11 by winning the EA Sports More Than a Vote contest, named the captain, and had an assist on the only goal in the match to Joseph Martinez. They both subbed out at halftime. We lost on PKs 5-3 to Juve, but it was a fun match. I think that MLS needs to completely overhaul and change their All-Star game format, but that is for another podcast, and that is the end of this day in LAFC history. Just a quick reminder that tomorrow, Sunday, August 3rd, over at Titan Stadium, LAFC 2 will be taking on the Town FC from beautiful Moraga, California, formerly Quakes Deuce. But that'll be 7 p.m. at Titan Stadium tomorrow, Sunday, August 3rd. Philly, we got to play another club for the very first time in club history. Founded in 1892, Los Tuzos, the Gophers, as an homage to the Miners, M-I-N-E-R-S, that helped start the club. Pachuca, Philly, don't let last year's form in their two Liga MX tournaments fool you. They have been quite possibly CONCACAF's best club in the last year or so.
Oh, no question about it. You just have to look no further than their crest and to see all those stars that they've ascertained during their international tournaments. Yes, a very, very good team filled with really good players, managed by a very good manager in that of El Profe, which I don't know. I think you and I even really appreciated at the time being in the press conference, listening to him talk. Because he had one very long-winded answer that you and I just didn't know where he was going with it. But either way, look, one of the teams that has done a tremendous amount of work in Liga MX, not as well as the internationally. We know that they're the defending CONCACAF champions, having beaten the Columbus Crew last year. Talented team, and not one that I expected that we were going to compete against so closely. But this is one of the reasons why I love the League's Cup. Without the only reason, truly, that I love the League's Cup is we get to play and prepare for teams that we would otherwise not really play on a regular basis. We got to learn about Mazatlan. Now, defenders, every time I see Pacifico, I will think of our podcast. For those who are wondering what I'm talking about, Mazatlan is where Pacifico Brewery comes from. And we learned that with the influx of Germans that moved in the 19th century, they created Pacifico. I will forever think of that, and I can thank League's Cup for that. Pachuca, we get to learn about them and their history because a result of League's Cup. Very cool. When we play Tigres, there's nothing new to learn because we played them a couple of times, and it's the same characters between Nahuel Guzman and Gignac, and, of course, a cast of other characters. But we know a bit about them. Pachuca, tough opponent. Didn't give us a tough time, though.
No, LAFC played really well. But let's not forget, 6-time CONCACAF Champions Cup winners. They beat the Crew last season 3-0 in the CONCACAF Champions Cup final. That led them to qualify for the 2024 FIFA Intercontinental Cup, where they defeated Botafogo and Al Ali to win the 2024 FIFA Challenger Cup. They're the first Mexican team, first ever CONCACAF team to win an international title organized by FIFA. And that let them play Real Madrid in the 2024 FIFA Intercontinental Cup final. They did lose that, as well as all three of their matches in the Club World Cup this year, including another one to Real Madrid. So they got to play Real Madrid.
Yeah. RB Salzburg, Al Hilal, yep.
Yeah, those are good teams. They have not lost yet in the Apertura, 3-0-0 this season. Although, again, last year they just weren't that good. 12th out of 18 in terms of points, just 11 wins from 34 matches. But again, it was how they play in these tournaments, which is what makes them such a formidable foe. They defeated San Diego 3-2 in their first match, although Luca Bombino got one for San Diego FC. Pablo Cisniega in net on that one. But this, again, would be the first ever meeting. We did have a small connection. We talked about this on One More Sleep. Our former director of football operations, Marco Antonio Garces, was the sporting director of Pachuca for 7 years. He worked there for 11 years total. So maybe a little bit of strategy rubbing off there from the Garces era. But yeah, you mentioned it. Head coach Jaime Lozano, he's, other than being a very long-winded answering coach in that press conference, he's an excellent head coach, managed Querétaro and Necaxa. He's also managed El Tri for 30 or so matches. That's the Mexican National League team. But he's only managed Pachuca for 7.
Three of National those, League again?
A national team. I said national team.
I swear you're saying National League.
I hear you, but you had a
second time. I feel like I've heard that.
It's okay. You hear what you want. Pachuca for 7 matches. 3 of those in the Apertura, 3 of those in the Club World Cup, and the match against San Diego. So he's already been able to coach in 3 different styles of tournaments as their head man. And look, this was, again, I want to say this too, Philly. I was surprised. They were there. They were loud at times. But the Pachuca supporters weren't really as prevalent around BMO Stadium as I thought they might be, especially for a Friday night match.
That was surprising, although the population in the stands was a bit bigger than it was at Mazatlan. I think we were just, 14 was the number, if I'm not mistaken. 14 is what, League's Cup reported. It's not necessarily how many walked through the door. It
was a good crowd. Yeah, 14,700 plus.
It was a good crowd. It wasn't the best crowd, but it was a good crowd nonetheless. It wasn't what it was like when Club America came into town, that's for sure. Totally different animal there, but at the same time, you're comparing one team with the biggest team in Liga MX. So, and I don't know if that's a result of summer Fridays, people wanting to go on vacation, or possibly even the cost of tickets. I don't know. Could be a variety of reasons, or it could be the fact that most people don't care about League's Cup because for many of them, it's a meaningless tournament. That's also open to debate. But yeah, we got more people in the stands for sure, but it wasn't the kind of crowd that we anticipated and normally expect at an LAFC game.
Yeah, and definitely, I don't care if it's a Tuesday. I still think we're going to see a ton of Tigres supporters in this next match. That's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get into the lineups, Philly. We've had a lot of fun getting into this match. So let's get there. First, for Pachuca, they started out with 11 players on the pitch, and they came out in a 4-3-3 with their captain and goalkeeper, Carlos Moreno, his 100th match in a Pachuca shirt. So congratulations to Carlos on that one. Their back line of Alonso Aceves, Sergio Barreto, Eduardo Bowerman, and Luis Rodriguez. In the midfield, and this is where I thought we might have been in a little bit of trouble, and I really think our midfield stepped up to the challenge last night. Victor Guzman, the club legend at Pachuca, 252 matches with 58 goals and 33 assists. He has scored goals in the Club World Cup, the CONCACAF Champions Cup, the Leagues Cup, you name it. He has put goals in the back of the net for Pachuca as a midfielder. Pedro Peraza, and the other player that I really wanted to put down as my player to watch, but I went with Guzman instead, the 19-year-old Elias Montiel, who would be heard from in this match for sure, already with 71 first team matches to his credit, despite being just 19 years old. And he showed why in this match for sure. Their front line, a very experienced and solid front line of Luis Quinones, the former Tigres star, former Nashville seer Yonder Cadiz, number 99, who got to play most of the match for Pachuca before being sent off, and forward Alexi Dominguez, who had a brace against San Diego. That's the lineup for Pachuca. Philly, 7 changes going from our last match to our match against Mazatlan. 7 more changes as we see the lineup against Pachuca.
Yep, in between the sticks. Scarf already alluded to him. Thomas the Wall, Hasal. I distinctly remember this kid defenders because during the MLS's back tournament, yours truly was laid up in a hospital bed in Burbank. What a time for an appendix to rupture. What a time, I tell you. Couldn't get any visits, any guests, couldn't have any fun. But then again, who the hell has fun when they're in a hospital bed? But watching Thomas Hasal do what he did for the Vancouver Whitecaps was awesome. That little stretch, as little as it was, I thought the kid was going to be just dynamite. Unfortunately, it wasn't. I think that was like the height of his career for a little while. And to be buried as a third stringer on LAFC, maybe not the worst place to be. But I think you can argue the case that maybe one game's not exactly a good body of work, but I will say that I think he's a better keeper than David Ochoa is. I think I'm going out on a limb.
Be careful, because Ruderman tried that in the press conference.
And Steve lit him up, but Steve likes to light up Ruderman in the press conferences. It's the same way Bob used to light up Vince LaRosa back in the day. He does it with a little scorn at the time, but you know that there is a respect and an endearment. He's prepping Ruderman for bigger things, and I think Justin is smart enough to realize and know that. But anyway, Hasal gets the start. We have Sergi Palencia and Kosi Tafari, Eddie Segura once again sporting the captain's armband, and Ryan's Hollingshead. As I'm walking to BMO Stadium, heading to buy myself one of these League Cup pins, which they sell at the beginning of the games. I have that in the Mazatlan one, a nice little token for $9, a little less if you're a season ticket holder, a very cool souvenir. I see this little, I swear, the tiniest Mini Cooper I've ever seen with Texas license plates. And I'm thinking to myself, who's driving in thinking that, hey, Tafari came from Texas recently. As tall as he is, he's in the smallest Mini Cooper. It was an endearing sight, to say the least. David Martinez, Igor Jesus, and Marky Delgado. And then we'd obviously have Timothy Tillman, Nathan Ordaz, and Denny Bwanga. And as I'm seeing this on FOTMob, I'm realizing that they messed up the formation. But you kind of get the idea. David Martinez was not in the midfield, nor was Timothy Tillman forward. But those are your starters for LAFC. And going through the bench, Artem Smolyakov would get some run. Jeremy Abobasi would get some run. And by the way, if you haven't checked it out yet, head on over to the Empire Strikers YouTube page or just search Soccer in 60 on your podcast platforms. We got to do a really good interview with Jeremy Abobasi just the other day, so check that out. In addition, Frankie Amaya and Ryan Raposo. And what was startling to me was the fact that Ryan Raposo was listed as out on the media guide due to a leg, but clearly he wasn't out because he came on in the 87th minute. Those are your players for LAFC. And Scarf, we got off to a really, really good start, my man. I don't know if you had anything else to add to the lineups, but coming out of the gates, looked really good. To get on the score sheet as early as we did was awesome. Pachuca's keeper, Carlos Moreno, terrible passing, to say the least. Marky Delgado with an interception, who will quickly find Nate Ordaz, who decided that playing only 30 minutes was the way for him to go on Friday night. Goes to the left of Denny Bwanga, and the destroyer makes Pachuca pay. 88 goals in all competitions for the club. He is now 5 goals shy of tying Carlos Vela for most goals in club history. A solid start considering how the previous game ended.
Philly, to me, obviously the steal was nice by Marky Delgado, the turnover that he forced, but it was how quickly Nathan Ordaz got rid of that ball right to Denis Bwanga. It was a one touch and go kind of a pass. I thought that's what really gave Denis that half step in front of his defender that he needed, and Denis able to bury it. All he did now was push his Leagues Cup record to 13 goals. No player has scored more goals in Leagues Cup than Denis Bouanga with 13 of them. You mentioned it, just 5 now away from tying Carlos Vela. But I was setting up my notes, Philly, because I really thought this was going to be a match for Nate where we would be able to sell quite a bit of his performance. You look at the way that he made that quick pass, and then just a couple minutes later, the way he kind of boxes out and screens out the defender to earn the corner. I was like, oh, Nate is going to have himself a match. I started really watching him to see how he would do. Unfortunately, Philly, we had that moment where Nate got in the way of young Timothy Tillman as Timmy came crashing into the box, unfortunately crashing into Nathan Ordaz in the 21st minute. And it just looked bad. Nate was caught flat-footed, not moving in the box. Timmy didn't see him until the last minute. And you and I just kind of put our heads down and went, oof, that was not the moment to have a moment like that for LAFC. Squandering chances. You just kind of thought back to the Mazatlan match. And then Philly, I can't explain it. Everybody in the press conference tried to get Steve to maybe open up a little bit more about it, but he just called it a dumb moment. It's something that can't happen, something that they'll talk to him about, obviously. You thought it was a little soft. I actually thought it was a very appropriate red card because what I saw, Philly, was him bring the hand or the arm up first before the elbow back. And it was a cheeky shot that if you're in the Prem or if you're in anywhere else, it probably happens 2 or 3 or 4 times a match. But the way that defender sold it, number one, and then number two, just looking at it in slow motion, it probably made it look a little worse. I didn't have a problem with the red card, but I know you and I may disagree on that one.
Look, we've seen far worse. And for all we know, Nate just had to scratch his ear at that exact moment in time. Maybe he wasn't winding up. Of course, I'm joking here and there, but this isn't the first time that something of this magnitude has happened with Nate. I mean, you could go back to the Miami game where we got lucky that he didn't get a red card in that matchup. What we do know about Nate is that he's competitive and he's aggressive. And between him and David Martinez, I will take Nate Ordaz 10 out of 10 times over David Martinez as my starting forward. Because maybe the kid doesn't have the talent that Martinez has. I think he has the maturity. In that case, not so much, though. And it was an interesting scenario. I had no idea what was going on. I mean, you saw Aceves down in the box, but that was completely off the ball, which is what obviously made it even worse than what it was. There was no play on it. At that moment in time, Denny was driving into the box. Ball goes up, cleared out by Eduardo Bowerman. And, Barreto hits the deck. Even looking at the replay, violent, vicious conduct, sure. Did it warrant a red card? Maybe. But where I'm fine with it, Scarf, even though I do consider it too soft, if you go back and do watch that game, or if you did watch the game, one thing that we can agree on is the fact that the officials let both teams play. It was a very physical contest. No question about that. So with that being the case, I would say, yes, the red card is warranted because, look, there was an opportunity moments prior where Cadiz had a shot in the box. If you go back and look at it, and Kosi Tafari was hugging him. He was hugging him, and nothing happened. There were so many other scenarios where players got knocked down and the officials let things go. If Nate goes up like this and goes within his elbow, taking down the Argentine center back, fine. I'll accept it. But it is something that Nate's going to have to learn from because he got away with it in Miami, against Miami. He didn't get away with it this time. And what Steve did say in the press conference, very realistic. Could that have actually been something that cost us a point? Maybe. We got 2, but maybe that's the difference between 2 and 3.
Look, that happened in the 28th minute. Go back and watch the first 28 minutes, everybody. LAFC dominated the first half hour of that match. Whatever Steve Cherundolo put in place as a game plan, by the way, just like against Mazatlan, I'll talk about that in a second. But whatever Steve Cherundolo put in place for the first half of the match was working to perfection. Pachuca, was never dangerous. Pachuca was never battling for possession in our 18. Pachuca was never putting on a high press that caused trouble for LAFC. Those first 30 minutes, LAFC played fantastically. And it was Nathan Ordaz who absolutely disrupted not just the flow of the match, couldn't have just cost his team a point, but he absolutely had to change the way that Steve Cherundolo had to coach the rest of the match. But what you and I loved more than anything is it didn't change the way our players played on the pitch. Even though they were down to 10, they still battled like hell. But you go back and look at the first half against Mazatlan. You go back and look at the first 30 minutes against Pachuca. And everybody says, oh, Steve out, Steve out, Steve out. Everything that Steve asked the players to do in the first half against Mazatlan worked. They fell asleep, and it was a stupid goal, absolutely, against Mazatlan. But it should have been 5-1. Steve can't finish chances for these boys. Steve can only pull the strings from the sideline. And if you look at the way that they've played against Mazatlan for 45 and Pachuca for 30 until the red card, everything that Steve was doing was working. Because we don't finish chances, that's not on the coach. Now, that being said, Philly, right after the red, it was a weird goal, right? It looked like it got deflected by at least one LAFC defender. You could tell from the replay, they actually showed a really good replay of behind Thomas Hasal, and you lose the ball for a little bit. You can't even see where it is. It was tucked in perfectly in that bottom corner. Will Farrell says in the chat, and I got to disagree with this, Steve started a crappy lineup versus Mazatlan that costed us 2 points. No, he didn't. Steve started a lineup against Mazatlan that for the first 45 minutes, we should have been up 5-1. Go back and watch. And the fact that we were able to do that against Mazatlan with what you call crappy players shows just how good and how deep this team can be when clicking on all cylinders. I totally disagree with the fact that we are burying Steve for the Mazatlan performance. If you want to talk about the second half, if you want to talk about the way they played, sure. But look at the first half when we should have been up 5-1. I completely disagree. But that being said, Philly, it looked like it might have been a soft goal until you see Thomas Hasal from behind. He loses the ball. It was very hard to see, tucked in a really good spot. The 19-year-old kid that I wanted to put as my player to watch, but I chickened out on it because I wanted Guzman. That's on me. Now we're 1-1 Philly, and we got to battle for our lives in the tournament down a man.
That red card could have easily changed the trajectory of this game. And yeah, look, he was shielded. I mean, you could kind of see that on the replay. It did look like it was soft, but Hasal was in no position to make the play. Even if he would have saw it a millisecond later, he was well out of position and the deflection might have been it. But Montiel, this is a kid that's going to be scary good, man. I'm really looking forward to seeing his journey. He was very impressive, and that was not the only time that he could have gotten on the score sheets in that game. Where that play truly breaks up, obviously, is the bad clearance by Marky Delgado. Got to do a lot better in cleaning things outside of the box. It was a very soft clearance that led to the play. To going up. And, here's the funny part. There's a sense of irony. First off, getting beat by a 19-year-old kind of sucks in any set of circumstances, whether it be on the pitch or in a street fight, getting beat by a 19-year-old. But the player who made who caused the turnover, or rather got the interception from Marky Delgado, Alexi Dominguez Figueroa. And there's a certain irony getting beat by a guy who has there's a street that is named right after him just outside of the stadium. Little sense of irony in that, but 1-1 yikes, and things started falling off the rails. David Martinez ends up getting a yellow card in the 35th minute, and yeah, the ish really starts hitting the proverbial fan. We're lucky to not have gone into the locker room down 2-1, which, by the way, was my scoreline. I thought Pachuca would win this one. Cadiz blasts one in the 36th minute. That was just slightly off target. And other than like a nice little flash of brilliance from David Martinez on a drive in the 37th minute, passing to Ryan across to nobody, nothing transpired. 2 minutes of stoppage time. Horse pucky. There's no way we should have gotten 2 minutes of stoppage time at that point. I think if we take the stoppage time from the first half and the second half and we switch them around, that makes a little more sense to the way things actually broke down. But we go into the locker room, Pachuca with the lion's share possession, couple of shots on target, playing the game. I wouldn't say better than LAFC, but certainly taking advantage of LAFC during a time in which we were at our most vulnerable with Ordaz coming off the pitch. We didn't have a very great passing execution afterwards. And we come out of the locker room not starting things off great either because Igor Jesus gets a yellow card. So all these players picking up yellow cards, taken away from their ability to be aggressive defensively. I didn't think that we would stick with this team, Scarf.
Philly, I'm a little surprised you didn't mention your favorite moment of the match in the first half, where they showed Pepe and Iris from Love Island on the Jumbotron. I thought for sure you would mention no Love Island for Philly. All right.
I'm glad they don't show this on the broadcast because it would be very annoying. When you're at the LAFC games, you can't help but stare at the big screens. And it's cool to see fans having a good time. You want to play a fun drinking game, by the way, when you're at the stadium? Anytime that the camera pans on over to a group of people, see if they have a drink in their hand. If they do, you take a drink. It's a fun game. Scarf and I couldn't play because we were in the press box, but it'd be a fun game to play. Oftentimes there are celebrities who I will admit I have no idea who they are because I'm not into pop culture as much anymore. But I have heard of Love Island. And that was the only set of celebrities that got put on the big screen where we heard any emotion evoked from the crowd. Reality TV, the fact that they have watch parties for Love Island at bars and they're packed with screaming people blows my mind. It goes to show you that I have zero career and zero mentality for the world of TV.
Yeah, look, there was a shriek of females in the stadium when they showed
Banshees.
Those two from Love Island. It was
I'm going to go get another beer.
All right, we're going to lose Philly for a minute, but while we lose Philly, let's talk about the incredible save because Philly already talked about the Igor Jesus yellow card there at the top of the second half. 56th minute in, go back and look at this beautiful save by Thomas Hasal on, oh, by the way, Elias Montiel. Montiel should have maybe had two in this one, but an incredible save. Montiel, a beautiful pass, look, that found a little bit of space. We were exposed at the top of the box, and diving to his right, making the one-handed save was Thomas Hasal. To me, it was the moment of the match because I thought that after that save, Philly, after that save, LAFC kind of found an extra little pep in their step. They were like, all right, you know what? We're gonna really start to push. They might have just been playing for penalties at that point, but I really thought they pushed a few more chips into the table there. And that save by Thomas Hasal was unbelievable. I did not think that while the referee let everybody play, right? We talked about that. I thought that we were getting fouled a little bit more and a little bit more of situations that would have deemed yellow card worthy. I thought that there were a couple of fouls in the match in the second half, especially where we could have earned a yellow card on a couple of players from Pachuca. I don't know if it changes the match or anything, but look, they let him play. And then Philly, you and I looked at each other after Igor Jesus falls asleep right in front of Thomas Hasal. The communication there between our center midfielder there and Thomas Hasal. Hasal rolled him the ball just like you would 1,000 times in practice or in a match. And Igor had no idea that it was even coming and turns the ball right over. But thank goodness our defense got back and was there in time. And then Philly, we see Jeremy Abobasi, who, again, you just interviewed as part of Soccer in 60 on a fun little interview there. If you guys can check out that episode. Really cool. Jeremy Abobasi and Artem Smolyakov. David Martinez, who I thought the body language there started to fail him a little bit. So it was a good time for Steve to pull him after 68 minutes. And Igor might have been punished, by the way, for the way that he let that ball go to Pachuca, and he comes off for Artem Smolyakov.
That's fair. I actually didn't even think about the two being together. Yeah, quite possibly, just to let him know that he made a mistake. You talk about the body language for David Martinez. It's also important to note that he kind of got his bell rung early in the first half. Not sure how much that would have been a factor in the game for the young man, but still he did display some flashes of brilliance. At some point, Timothy Tillman would come on as well as we start getting closer and closer to penalty kicks, which I think was a really good idea, all things considered, how badly he took the penalty kick on the last time around. As much as Timothy Tillman does in terms of facilitating. Timothy Tillman's not a goal scorer. I don't care what anybody says in regards to that point. Timothy Tillman is not a threat in the box. We talked earlier about how he clashed with Nathan Ordaz and how that was on Nate. Sure, but Nate's not used to seeing Timothy Tillman be threatening in the box. Neither are any of us. So I'm not going to throw that one on Nate. But you talked about how even with the substitutions, we were still going directly at one another between LAFC and Pachuca. One thing that I love about Liga MX between these Apertura and Clausuras, the small body of work, the short amount of games, the 17 games per season, whatever the case may be, every single game matters. And that was actually something that was great for both of us, for all the fan bases, because in a must-win in this tournament, with the way the format is, the top 4 MLS teams advance, the top 4 Liga MX teams advance. So if you want to move on in this tournament, every single game matters, and I'm glad that nobody parked the proverbial bus in this case, that nobody was trying to go into penalty kicks, because it made the game pretty entertaining nevertheless.
No, I totally agree. You would normally see the dark arts. You would normally see, I can't use the other term that we like to use for it here because it's a family-friendly podcast.
Poop-housery?
Yeah, that's the one. You would see those kind of things happen, especially facing a Liga MX team. But none of that was to be had because, look, Pachuca had to win this match just as much as LAFC did, which is why I thought our performance was all the more special, knowing that you had a club that was continuing to push. In the 79th minute, absolute chaos in the box as Nkosi Tafari takes a bicycle kick attempt to the dome. Thank goodness you said this, Philly, when we were in the press box watching it. Thank goodness he turned his head and he only got the back of his head there. He was down behind the play. And then I was, oh my God, I'm in the press box, so I can't lose my mind. If I were sitting in my founder seats, I would have given an earful to the referee. Denis Bouanga gets taken out center pitch, like right in the middle of the damn circle, in order for play to stop so that they can go check on Tafari. And nothing was called on that foul from behind on Denis. I thought that was one of those moments in the match where that referee let play go on a little bit too much. He let too many things go, especially because we had already given a couple of yellow cards to LAFC. Why the heck that was not a yellow card? You can give 2 cards out on the same play. You can go give Jandre Cadiz the red card for the bicycle kick to Nkosi Tafari's dome, but you can also go back and give the yellow to that defender that took out Denis from behind. I thought that was pretty ridiculous. You mentioned Timothy Tillman coming off, as well as Ryan Hollingshead. For Ryan Raposo and Frankie Amaya. And you were telling me, I watched 2 guys come down. I was like, oh, that's Frankie Amaya and a little guy. I think that's Ryan Raposo. And you're like, no, Ryan Raposo's out. I go, well, then who's the little guy standing next to Frankie Amaya? And it was Ryan Raposo. And by the way, Ryan Raposo on those Vancouver Whitecaps teams that Thomas Hasal was doing all those cool things with in the COVID Cup tournament there. So a little bit of a connection there. And what we saw, Philly, right, when we went into the mixed zone here for the Leagues Cup and Thomas Hasal was giving his interviews, the happiest guy for him as all the players were coming out was Ryan Raposo. That was pretty cool that he took a minute, took some pictures, and gave some love to his boy. 88th minute, it doesn't count for anything, but it was a beautiful cross by Denis Bouanga to Marky Delgado. It was the top of the knee, I think, that Marky got it past the keeper, but well offside. And then, Philly, the moment that we would come to rue was 4 minutes of stoppage time, that 3rd minute, and this is a live by the sword, die by the sword moment, right, Philly? When we want Denis to be the destroyer, as you would say, but in this time, maybe he should have been the facilitator.
Yeah, look, Marky Delgado was a big part of this play. He hits Denny on the left side, and like Denny's touch, we don't talk enough about his first touch. It's incredible, jumping in the air. He's got his foot by his solar plex. For him to be able to control the ball that way, I mean, he does some world-class things when he's not scoring goals. But he ends up putting Eduardo Bowerman, the Brazilian, on blades. As he slips, and he has all the space he needs to make the run, but is shot wild and off target. What I would have loved to have seen, and I think I said that to you immediately after the play, Jeremy Abobasi was wide open and he was calling for it, but then he fired it anywhere. I'll accept that as being a bit selfish, but a pass to Jeremy might can only say might, have given LAFC a much better look at goal, but we will unfortunately never know. He was open. He was calling for it. We know Jeremy Abobasi can score goals. We've seen him do that against us time and time again, but that was the last threatening play. Now we're back into the scenario where we've got to deal with penalties. But this time, though, facing the south end as opposed to the north end. And the person who would really make a nice statement is the person who, unfortunately, did not close out the game the night prior.
Yeah, Philly, the funny thing we asked ourselves is, would this go another 12 rounds? It didn't even go the full 5. How cool is that? Thomas Hasal in front of the south end. You mentioned it. That was kind of fun. The press box, if you guys don't know, is located on the, what is that? The southwest corner of the stadium.
I guess so.
we got a pretty good view of everything there.
Minus the window that's in front of us.
Yeah, we moved because there's a little bit of a shield in the window that we were sitting in front of. But Denis does everything that Denis needs to do. Denis, Marky Delgado, Sergi Palencia, and Eddie Segura all do their jobs. But it was the first and the fourth PKs that Philly, it looked like a replay from 1 to 4. 2 incredible diving saves. I love this. Ruben. Oh, shoot. We both pressed it at the same time.
God dang it.
All right, you do it. Go. No, you. I love Ruben Rios. Hasal, defender of the South End. Like, that's pretty badass.
That's good. That's good.
That's a good one. Ruben, we always appreciate you and everybody else in the chat. We love every single one of you guys that have woken
Ruben
up.
de Koog, whatever celebrity sighting we get in here. Schmurdy, although I don't see him in here. Everybody who's commented in here. Sam Ramirez, DMTV Visual L. I'm sorry if I'm.
You guys are making Philly read after a shoey. That's never fun. But look, LAFC takes PKs 4-2. It's the first shootout win for LAFC in Leagues Cup history. And again, I think it was a great performance by LAFC. You mentioned it, Philly, after David Martinez gets the red card and Yonder Cadiz just misses that attempt. We were so lucky not to go into the half down 2-1. We continued to bend but not break on defense, despite being down a man for 50 some odd minutes in this match before Yonder Cadiz got his red card. I just think what this tournament has underscored for us, Philly, if you look at the Mazatlan first half, if you look at Nathan Ordaz's red card, we continue to be our own worst enemy and can't get out of our own damn way sometimes. We should be up 2-0 in this tournament and be considered a favorite. Imagine if we're up in the first half 5-1, and let's just say we take this match 1-0 or we extend it out 2-0 the way that we were playing. Now all of a sudden, we're sitting on 6 points. We're sitting on a 6 or 7 goal differential. And look where that has us. We'd be like right behind Seattle Sounders and their touchdown they put up on Cruz Azul in the first match.
Incredible.
It's really just our own damn fault that we haven't been able to really make waves in this tournament. Philly, I know we're not mathematically eliminated, but we have to have a lot of clubs do a lot of things wrong ahead of us and put up a performance against Tigres that's relatively unlikely. But look what happened to Cruz Azul. I don't know. I don't think we're going to move on in Leagues Cup. I said that as soon as we drew against Mazatlan and then eventually lost the match in penalties. I don't think we're going to move on. But I think that these players need to look back at this tournament. 2 kind of disappointing results that really should have had us towards the top of the standings here in Leagues Cup.
I mean, if you go back a couple of weeks, even a couple of months ago, some of the more disappointing results weren't because the other teams were better than us. It's because, like you said, we shot ourselves in the foot. The game against the Tunisian side Esperance, we shot ourselves in the foot in that game. The unfortunate draw to the Galaxy, we shot ourselves in the foot at that point. Galaxy played a better game? No. Eddie Segura lost his cool, and the team was rattled, and they left the door open for a Galaxy side to come in. Every time that we have lost some of these crucial games, it's because of your exact point. We shoot ourselves in the foot. But in this case, We end up winning the game. You said our first shootout in Leagues Cup history. Yes, that is correct. It was a joy watching Thomas Hasal do what he did, turn back the clock to the COVID Cup tournament. You said we affectionately refer to it as the COVID Cup. I don't think there's anything affectionate I have about that COVID Cup because I was in the hospital at that point. And there just seems to be a thing that LAFC has with backup keepers succeeding in penalty shootouts. I don't know what it is, but it's still pretty darn fun. When we were in the mix zone chatting with Denis Bouanga, you had made a comment prior in the press box about the game against Tigres being meaningless. Okay, but it wasn't meaningless to Denny when our buddy Justin Ruderman asked him about his friend Andre-Pierre Gignac.
Yeah.
Now, this is why I love Denny, because Denny is a baller. More importantly, a competitor. He wants revenge. He does not forget the game in which we lost against Tigres the years prior. That's what I like to see. We talk about punting this tournament. I don't believe that that's the mentality. When your best player doesn't have that mentality, that kind of moves down the line, even to like the last player coming off of the Pine Pony. LAFC wants to beat Tigres because there is a history there and a much-needed win against a team that has really been better than us on the two previous occasions that we saw them. CONCACAF Champions Cup back in the day, and obviously, was it Campeones Cup? Now I'm scratching my head and forgetting. Yeah, it was Campeones Cup 2023. Yeah. So I love that about Denny. And as much as we talk about Josh Gross, by the way, on this podcast, start reading Justin Ruderman stuff. An up-and-coming journalist, writes a lot of stuff from MLS. We knew him when he was just a mere student at USC. What Justin Ruderman has done, by the way, has been pretty darn incredible. But he asked all the good questions, and Denny opened up about how he wants to get revenge on Gignac. And I'm looking forward to the game on Tuesday right now. I wasn't prior, but I am now.
Yeah, real quick check, by the way, in the standings. We've played 2 matches. And of the teams that have played 2 matches on the MLS side, we're third. Columbus with 4 points after 2 matches. NYCFC with 3 points, but a better differential, I believe it is, or better goal squad. I don't know what. Oh, they have a win. Never mind. Excuse me. They have a win. They're 3 points, and then us. But if you look at where we actually sit, after our 2 matches, it's 11th place, which means there are 8 teams that have only played 1 match that are already ahead of us in the standings. So it's going to be a lot of leapfrog that we're going to have to do. We're going to have a lot of things break our way for all of these MLS clubs that are playing their second match in the next day or 2. It looks highly, highly unlikely. But look, you never know what can happen in a tournament like this. But either way, it'll be fun against Tigres because Tigres is a team that we obviously have history against, a team that we measure ourselves against, a team that Denis Bouanga will be excited to play against, and a team that usually brings a lot of good supporters into BMO Stadium. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Philly and I will be there in the press conference. We'll be there in the press box. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. And look, I've got nothing. We've talked about this match for about an hour. It's been a beautiful Saturday morning. Philly's got one more thing, and then we're going to sign off.
2 things. Stalker USA asks, on behalf of the millions
and millions,
what the Korean equivalent is to Hello Kitty. And thanks to the powers that be at AI, apparently the Korean character that could be seen as having similar qualities of cuteness and popularity is Mashimaru. And they give a whole list of reasons why, reasons in which I am not going to read at this point. But that answers that question. That's the beautiful thing about it. Now, one last thing I would like to do, Scarf. It is an act. Bear with me 1 second.
Oh, boy. I don't know what's about to happen, y'all.
No, I think you do. Because
we've
opened up the floodgates. I don't know where Will Ferrell went in the chat. But in the movie Old School, Will Ferrell, as the suburban married dad, was very, calm and docile, trying to be an adult until he bonged a beer. And it tastes so good when it hits the lips. And I will attest to that. I will do one last shoey on this program. And then at this point, barring an MLS Cup win, I'm retiring this damn thing because I'm too friggin' old to do shoeys. And since I did one this morning, I'm going to do another one. This is a half a drink. Oh, there you go, Mashimaru. the equivalent of Hello Kitty. I am going to do the final shoey of my life, voluntarily anyway. Full can, by the way.
He said of his life. There's no chance. And by the way, not a single person made you do this one. Let's just be very, very clear.
It's so good when it hits the lips, Scarf.
Oh, Frank the Tank. Good Lord. It's happening, you guys. Right at about the hour mark. Oh, that's just awful.
Frank the Tank. Frank the Tank.
I'm putting Mushimaro back up on the screen. On behalf of Mushimaro and my co-host, Philly, you know how we like to end all these things. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, boy.